So I'm on my way to get some Indian food. So I figured I'd just hop on here. Not that anyone really watches it live, but so here I am talking to myself, which is pretty funny. So anyway, had the coffee and coaching today. So I did a video earlier talking about it, and no one really showed up. So, which is fine. Actually, I was after I realized that no one was going to show up, I was starting to deal with the what is this dude doing? Dumb. So after realizing that, I was starting to put the double gates in for the warehouse, and then this, the guy showed up, which I was actually it was weird. I was texting him back and forth at one point, but then he thought I was someone else. But then he ended up coming out, which ended up working out pretty damn well because he's a welder. He does fencing as well, but he does a lot of this that most fence companies will not do. And so anyway, it worked out perfectly because I'm like, hey, while you're here, like I kind of need help with the these displays I want to set up, and like the one idea I had, he's like, it's probably not going to work because of the wind and blah blah blah. And I'm like, perfect. So he's supposed to be working on that at some point for me, give me pricing, and then I get him started with that. But after talking to him for a while, he's kind of like built himself a nice little market. And what's happening is like we have a million fence companies in the area or landscapers that just do fencing. But here's a guy that, he does the welding, he has a guy that does the powder coating, and basically he's taking on a lot of these jobs that no one really wants to do. And which ends up working out really damn well because, like I was talking to him in this area, right? So you can use a program or the website is called kwfinder.com, and it basically stands for keyword KW find.com, right? And I don't know if they have a free version still or not, but anyway, you can search and find out how many people are searching for a specific thing, every month, right? And for our area, like for these three counties, which we actually service more than three at this point, but there's like 3,000 people a month that are typing in fence company near me, which is great, right? Well, the problem is there's literally about 150 to 200 people in this area that will install fences. That's between fence companies, that's between landscapers, that's random guys on Facebook, at least 150 to 200 people that do fencing, at least, right? So, which is fine. But as we were talking, because I don't know what's going to happen with the recession and everything else, but the number of people that are going to look is going to drop, right? So maybe instead of 3,000, maybe it's 2,000 or maybe it's 1,500. Let's say it cuts in half and you got 1,500, right? And but there's still 150 to 200 people. Not only that, but as times get tough, what's going to happen is more people are going to get into fencing, right? This could be businesses. This, if they need to add on additional revenue streams and stuff like that. For me, I started. Well, it wasn't during a recession, but I just started out of necessity, right? I was basically broke. An opportunity kind of came up, and I said, "Hey, can I kind of do this?" And fast forward 5, 6 years, here we are where we have a fence company that does a few $1 million a year in revenue, and then we have a supply company as well. So crazier things have happened, right? So kind of like I talked about in other videos where the landscapers have this great opportunity because they do they get in their foot in the door with the small shit, and then they start offering more and more and more and more, which is great, but they're still doing the same shit that pretty much everyone else does, right? Whereas this guy, he has something that most people don't do. Like he's doing the small repair jobs, he's doing he does full-on fence installs, but then he's doing these custom gates, which the gates he did, like he showed me, they are awesome, right? And it's something I would never in a million years touch because it would take me forever, for what I'm trying to do. Like it would take me like 2 days to even wrap my head around like what the hell I need to do. Whereas him, like he can just do it, right? He's got the shop at his house, it's just him and his his nephew. So it's a small time operation where like he can get by and book, one job a week, and like he'll probably still turn a halfway decent profit for him, and between him and his nephew. Whereas, someone like me, we have a lot more overhead and everything else, so we have to keep booking more and more and more jobs, right? So what does that mean? Like, one, I feel like he's in a different, he's in a different game than most other people. Like, for on my, business resume or whatever, I got like literally just a handful of things that I'm doing, which basically centers around the standard um, residential fencing, right? Whereas he goes in, he's like standard residential, then he has the welding, then he has these custom gates, and then he has this, and this. And it just, it's gonna help him, weather out this storm, more or less, is what it comes down to. The other thing I did talk to him about, which I talked about in the video like 2 days ago, day ago, is that the other thing that we have to look at is like with the recession coming up, we do have to be smarter with our money, right? And this is where we need to keep money set aside for these opportunities that come about. And again, I told him the same thing, and he's probably not going to do anything with it, which is fine. But really, really, really consider the stock market, because basically everything's going to be on sale. Like, if you own a fence company, can you imagine, right now, if the panels are $125, can you imagine, because of the recession just knocks everything completely out, and then the suppliers start selling it to you for like, just say $60 a panel, but in 2 years there's going to be like $125 again, right? Well, would you buy these panels at 65 or $60, right? And the answer is yes. And like, if I asked you how many would you buy, you would buy literally as many as you possibly could, because in the very short term you might be able to go from 60 and 65 to maybe 80 and 85, where you're making like 25% markup on this stuff. But then it comes in where you end up being able to double, basically, you bought it for 60 and 65, and you're going back and selling it for 125. But actually, with the stock market, it's even greater than that. Again, I talked about it in the other video, but it's Solaris. The ticker is CAL. You can look at it. It does the same thing every time. Now, this is not financial advice and all that kind of shit, but if you look at the last periods of time, when shit basically hits the fan, it does the same thing. And because it's in a retail sector, it really overreacts to everything, right? And this is what I was saying. It's going from, a lot of the companies are saying, there's usually a 40 to 60%, correction during these times, right? Well, that would mean it would go from like 25 to about 1250, right? Well, this is going from 25 to like 350, right? So this is kind of like getting these panels. If they used to be 125, it's kind of like getting them for like $18, right? Now, when you start thinking about like that shit's crazy, right? But again, you have to have money for this stuff. Like, you have to. Like, I was so dumb back in 2008. Like, I knew what was going to happen, and at the time, like, I had no money. I had to get a car at $1,500, right? And so when I went to go buy my car, I used that $1,500 for it, right? I knew that the Solaris, well, back then it was called Brown Shoe, but it was going to jump up. Like, I knew it, right? Same thing. If I would have put in that $1,500, it would have turned into, within about a year, it would have turned into about $10,000. Like, at that time, like, this car, actually it's still the same car, but like, I think I bought the car for 24, 25, something like that. It would have paid half the car off that 1,500 deposit. Like, it's crazy when you think about this shit, right? But I wasn't prepared. And then, so it was the same thing with